first want to start off with, we first met you on America's Next Top Model, Cycle 7.
Yes.
Which you were part of the finalists that got flown out to the show. Take us back to, what year was this that you first started your top model journey?
I started in 2000 and I believe 5.
Wow.
Yeah.
So take us back to 2005. What made you want to audition for the show and be a contestant?
You know, I was getting a lot of, oh, you should be on that show, America's Next Top Model. Like, I was always hearing it, and I was a big fan of the show. And I used to sit on the couch and I used to watch it, never really desiring to be on it until one day, after a couple seasons later, I realized that there wasn't no Latinas, like really representing my culture. And I remember sitting on the couch with my mom and telling her, I want to be the first Latina to win this show. And I'm going to go and audition. And so what I did was, at the time, America's Next Top Model was not coming to audition in like major cities like Chicago. So I went online and I was scouting the place where a casting director was going to be present. I wanted a casting director to see me. I didn't want to submit a video. I didn't want to submit an application because I knew it was going to drown in the middle of thousands of applications. So I sat my dad down and I told him, I need to rent a car because I'm going to drive 6 hours to Cleveland, Ohio. So the drive that I had within me to really be on the show, I literally took that drive all the way to Cleveland, Ohio, and went through a process of auditions, which I wasn't expecting to even stay in Cleveland, Ohio another day. And I had to stay another day because I went through a process of an elimination. And then I ended up getting casted by the casting director of America's Next Top Model, Michelle Mock.
Oh, dope. Michelle.
Yeah, Michelle Mock.
So you are a smart girl and you did your homework. We absolutely love that. Talk about the onboarding process for Top Model. We've heard many stories, both good and not so good, about just what it took to actually get to the show. What was it like for you?
You know, for me, I knew that right away I had to stand out because the amount of girls that are in this process, you'd be surprised. It's a lot of girls. Like, we're almost at the 1,000 mark, down to 100 mark, then down to like your 30. Okay, so I went from the thousands to hundreds, and in those thousands and hundreds, I remember my auditions being where the rooms were so packed, they would line us up like against the wall. So imagine a wall, all 4 walls being lined up. So my nose was touching the other girl's shoulder. That's how packed they would have us in the room. And so
almost done.
We had very little opportunity to showcase ourselves, to represent ourselves. But every moment, like I remember my first time, I had to step out of that line, right? Where we're like nose to nose. And I remember telling myself, like, girl, you better give every little attitude that you have within you, a little spice that I had within me, and all I had to say was my name, my age, my height, and where I'm from. But I said, I'm going to say my name, my age, my height, like in a way that they've never seen before. And that's what I did. I came out, I brought out my legs first, like, hello, I'm here, my name, my age, my height, and where I'm from. Just like that. And then I went back into the line. So then I think that was the beginning of them like, wait, who's that girl? And then I had like a satin top that was just covering like right here with a little ruffle. So I was very strategic about everything, like how I was gonna stand out. And then once I made it out of Chicago, I made it to the semifinals with the 30 girls in the house.
Which clearly it worked because you got on the show. So like I said earlier, we saw you on Cycle 7. And so I have this question. So I want to know what happened with Cycle 7? You were shown as an early front runner, but were later denied access to the house. Now, I've heard reports of alleged situations going on in your personal life that prohibited you from being casted that particular cycle. What do you feel comfortable about sharing about what really happened that caused you not to be a part of Cycle 7? So, was it that, Jaslene just wasn't good enough compared to the other girls to get into the house? Or was it other things that the audience did not know because it was not shown on the show that led to you not being included that cycle?
So something happened behind the scenes that no one knew. I've spoken about this in certain interviews, but America's Next Top Model, like, they're very serious about the girls they pick in the house. So there's a process of elimination, but there's also a process of evaluation. So
Mm-hmm.
when you're in
I like how
the
you put that.
when you're in the audition process, you undergo a few like therapy sessions, and in those therapy sessions, I personally was speaking very freely and openly about my life, including my relationship with my boyfriend at the time. And I was speaking about the highs and the lows. I was very explicit
Mm-hmm.
about everything that I was going through with him. And I remember that out of all the girls, they pulled me out one more time to go through a therapy session. And I found that a bit strange because, like, I had to leave. I was in Beverly Hills and I had to go to this fancy therapist, and it was just me by
Mm.
myself. And I'm like, okay, and I'm speaking about my relationship with my boyfriend to this therapist. So then, it's time for Tyra to call the 14 girls out of the 30. And we all saw she didn't call my name, and I swore I was going to be in that house. And I got fed up. I didn't understand why I didn't make it into the house. They wanted interviews. I wasn't trying to give them any interviews. I was like, y'all lost your chance. Like, you ain't getting nothing from me. And the producers, literally the producers, had to come to me, sit me down, and be like, you were actually not Tyra Banks' number one girl. But the
Oh, wow.
therapist overruled her decision because you are emotionally distraught. You
Mm.
are in an abusive relationship. And that was the first time I ever heard abuse, like being in an abusive relationship. That word never existed in my vocabulary, or I never understood it. And the producers were like, well, if you get help, if you get out of that relationship, we will guarantee you a spot back in the house next season. So that
Oh, wow.
so that gave me hope. I came back home. I did 6 months of therapy, and I gained knowledge on what constitutes healthy behavior and unhealthy behavior in a relationship. I got out of the cycle. I understood what the cycle of abuse is and broke that cycle. Even though, as a victim of a survivor, victim and a survivor at the time of victim, you try to break that cycle. Once you learn, you try to break it. But I did go back a couple times, but that was typical of the victim's profile. But then eventually I came out, and then I come back on America's Next Top Model, and here I am, your winner.
Oh my God, that is such a beautiful story. I think it's safe to assume a part of you is grateful for them making you do that.
And I've always said that. I've always said that if it weren't for them to give me that kind of awareness and healing journey, to start giving me that healing journey,
Yeah.
that I wouldn't be the advocate or the survivor that I am today.
I think this is a perfect spot to take a quick break from what we're talking about. Do you want to talk to the people out there who may be struggling with something similar to what you're saying that you did in the past?
Yeah, I think that just like I did, opening up to someone that actually could help you is a good way to start to getting out of an abusive relationship. I think that's where the hope starts, and I think that girls need to understand that there is hope in a situation like that. I come from a Latin background where that's not typically talked about. In fact, it's normal for the man to be dominant, to be abusive. And one thing that I appreciate about this journey is that I've learned to be loved in a whole different way. So love is not abuse. And I encourage people to get out. Get out of the unhealthy relationship, because there is someone better for you.
And thank you so much for that. First of all, I want to ask you, from what you just shared, you didn't even realize that you were in an abusive relationship. To people who may not be as knowledgeable about it, what are some signs that you can share with people that they should probably be aware of that indicates they're in a situation similar to the one you spoke about?
So you have to be aware that, I was still young, so I saw jealousy as a form of love. And a lot of us tend to think that that is a form of love. And it's not. It's actually toxic. Any controlling issues or power issues, trying to have power over you, is another characteristic of a man who is abusive. I think that physical, mental, verbal, and emotional abuse, they don't discriminate. It can be anyone that can go through this. You're talking about doctors, lawyers that can be facing domestic violence. Another characteristic is, accusing you of maybe cheating. That was one big thing that my ex used to do, was always accuse me of cheating on him, always going through my phone. It's like there was no trust, no loyalty. And look out for those things.
Thank you so much for that. And I'm so glad that through Top Model, you were able to get educated and ultimately liberated from that situation. Oh, boy, you know.